Welcome everybody to the inaugural episode of CharlesCast. During the segments we'll be discussing important perspectives about race, class, and social status that I don't believe is properly represented in the media or downplayed to the point of obscurity. The subjects will range from politics, civil rights, entertainment, and the media. If you like this production, please subscribe to my Facebook, YouTube, and I would appreciate any kind of donations you guys would send me. My Patreon link is below at the bottom. Before we begin, I would like to first thank my wife for helping me come up with an appropriate title for this programming. So without further delay, let's get down to business. Today we're going to talk about Russian collusion. So for the interest of time, we're going to keep the video under 10 minutes. If I were to go into every infinitesimal detail, this video will be much longer. So let's talk about the Helsinki summit with President Vladimir Putin. Since 2016, there's been a massive snowballing of information and details tying Russian intelligence operatives into hacking and infiltrating our democratic process. In December of 2017, General Flynn was indicted and pled guilty for lying about his contacts with Russia and failure to disclose payments he received from a state Russian-backed company. On July 27, 2017, George Papadopoulos, one of Trump's foreign policy advisors, was arrested and charged with lying to the FBI about his contacts with Russia. After essentially falling on a knife for his own team, Trump, in Trump fashion, threw him under the bus by calling him a low-level volunteer. However, like many things Trump says, that was proven to be false. Currently, Mr. Papadopoulos is cooperating with Special Counsel Robert Mueller's investigation and is expected to be sentenced sometime in September. Paul Manafort and Rick Gates, all Trump campaign officials, have been implicated in Russian meddling and has been charged for tax and bank fraud, for which I believe will be used as a bargaining chip to support a Russian collusion case against the White House. On April 27th of this year, 2018, the House's Permanent Committee on Intelligence found that Russia did indeed carry out a complex cyber attack on the federal government to influence the 2016 election. And on July 14th, just a few weeks ago, Rod Rosenstein, who was Deputy Attorney General, handpicked by Trump himself, indicted 13 Russian intelligence officers for hacking the US election. Even almighty Facebook has been embroiled in controversy when it was found that Russian companies were buying ads on Facebook to attack Hillary Clinton, and recently they lost $120 billion in market cap because they're still dealing with fallout from this issue. In typical Trump style, he's been blaming Obama for just about everything. He even blames Obama for not doing anything about this whole Russian incident. However, in late December 2016, Obama did in fact expel 35 Russian nationals from the United States and issued sweeping sanctions against the Russian government for meddling in our election. Now, despite the overwhelming evidence from both sides of the aisle, the DOJ, the FBI, and the CIA, Trump, like a schoolgirl crushing over the captain of the football team, announced in a joint press conference in front of the world that Russia had nothing to do with election meddling. And in August 2nd, 2017, Trump himself signed a law imposing new sanctions against who? The Russians. Despite the massive amount of evidence confirming the Russian government's role in disrupting our election process, and 2 days after his own Deputy Attorney General indicted members of that same government, Trump holds a press conference with the enemy of the state, Vladimir Putin, and defends the man. That's like a husband throwing his wife under the bus during an argument with a third party, and it lends real credence to that dossier compiled by British spy Nigel Steele, alleging that Russia has compromising material on President Trump. For his endorsement, Trump received a withering rebuke from both sides of the aisle, which is great. Now, the thing that's troublesome to me is not Trump. He's an egocentric freak who puts his own self-interest before the needs of the country. It's not the Republicans, because they were equally outraged. It was those darned delusional Trump supporters who now vehemently declare that federal law enforcement is colluding against Trump. After decades of branding itself as the party who respects law enforcement, now these so-called patriotic Americans are skeptical of police? Now? Not when unarmed black folk were getting gunned down almost every day. Not when Native Americans were being kicked off their land to install a friggin' pipeline. Not when college athletes were getting away with rape on college campuses. Now that their number one is in the hot seat, now the police and their tactics come into question. Give me a break. What's really telling is how African Americans were told time and time again to respect law enforcement. You know, it's kind of like all lives matter. It's an empty virtue used as an excuse to further marginalize and malign the black community. Sorry about that little rant. Got sidetracked. Now, back to the collusion stuff. On July 27th, Trump's fixer and longtime attorney, Michael Cohen, released to the press that Donald Trump not only knew, but also attended that infamous Trump Tower meeting where the Russians offered dirt on then-candidate Hillary Rodham Clinton. When confirmed, this will make Trump and all of his cronies an accessory after the fact to every indictment levied against Russia. This will also give Mueller and his team that key piece of information essential to every criminal investigation: a motive. With this revelation, now we know why Trump tried to protect Flynn, Manafort, Papadopoulos, Gates, his son-in-law, Jared, and gives us a deeper understanding into that treasonous endorsement he gave to Putin during the Helsinki meeting. According to reports, Cohen has also agreed to testify to this fact. What's funny about all this is, if Trump would have kept his mouth shut, he would have gotten away with one of the biggest upsets in the 21st century, the 2016 election. One could argue that if Trump didn't have help from Russia, he wouldn't have won in the first place. To assuage any thought of culpability, all Trump had to do was let the federal authorities investigate Russia in peace. Maybe even throw a punch in there, just for good measure. Now, could he do it? No. He was too high and mighty. Not only did Trump want to steal the election, this guy wanted to take a selfie with the guy who helped him do it. And the icing on the cake is this: if it wasn't for his deplorable, womanizing, and overall disrespectful treatment of women, his boy Cohen wouldn't even be in the hot seat to begin with. Today, Special Counsel Robert Mueller's office wants to ask Trump about obstruction of justice. According to those familiar with the matter, Trump and his legal team has been going back and forth with Mueller about the scope of the questions. With this revelation, it looks as if Robert Mueller's investigation is finally coming to some kind of climax. And it seems as if Mueller is laying the groundwork to ensnare Trump, in his own words, both written and orally. In closing, whether you're a Republican or Democrat, you should be appalled at all of the evidence that ties Trump with Russia, and you should be outraged that our beloved democratic system fell victim to the complex ruse that is Donald Trump's presidency.